Hey guys, I'm going to do a quick video on something I tweeted about that some people have asked some questions about, specifically how triple net leases in the quick lube space are a ticking time bomb. You know, since we started franchising, the question that gets asked quite a bit is what makes you different from the other brands? There's only a handful of legitimate quick lube franchise brands, and a couple of them are a little bit too far out of reach for most of the average investors. And some of them have pretty high barriers to entry in terms of liquidity and net worth. So, but that's neither here nor there. Every single one of the brands says some iteration of their retail friendly or their operator friendly, not retail friendly, operator friendly. And, that's obviously something we talk about at length with us as being operator friendly with the lower cost structure. But I'm going to show some specific instances of how that's exactly the case, how it's 100% true that we are. And I'm going to use a triple net lease example in one property that we purchased as an example, just to kind of talk about it. So right now my screen is shared on Crexy with just typed in oil change. We're looking at we have a bunch of buildings for sale right now in the $2 million range. And these are all based on net operating incomes of the underlying operator. So in our business, typically, if you don't own the real estate, if the corporate entity owns the real estate and is operating it as a corporate store, you either suppress the rent for ease of operations or you hike the rent for tax purposes because you're both the landlord and the tenant. So in this case, in this instance, a lot of these brands are building buildings for one price, putting a franchisee in them for a extravagant, like over the top lease amount. That's called the NOI, upwards of six figures sometimes. It's all verifiable. It's all, you can click on any one of these and it'll show you what the NOI is. So take 5, for example. They recently went public through Driven Brands. You can click on this listing and it's going to go ahead and in the description side, it's going to tell you, okay, the NOI on this building is $112,000 a year. So that's a pretty high rent for a small building. I don't know if there's a corporate guarantee, but all the details will be in the marketing description. These buildings do not cost what is this price? 2.24 million. Sometimes they can cost upwards of $1 million. Sometimes they're less. Our building, obviously, one of our main selling points is how inexpensive our building is. But let me talk about real quick how this becomes a disaster in the future. So I'm going to use this as an example, and I'm going to state this right now. I am a big fan of Jiffy Lube. What they did for our industry is you cannot take it away. They built this industry. I'm just using this one as an example because because I have firsthand experience with this specific building. So this building in Bettendorf, Iowa came up for sale recently, 8 days ago. Bettendorf is in what's called the Quad Cities. And recently we purchased 2 buildings in the Quad Cities area. I bought this building right here for $125,000. And we've been operating out of it. We're doing really nice business out of it. This November was a really good month for us, averaging 20 plus cars a day out of the store for the month of November. Open 6 days a week with a shortened Wednesday. So the labor cost is not that high, not a huge building. So the expenses are not very high. But anyway, this building was built by a gentleman named John DeGrieve, and he had a bunch of locations in Quad City. One of his locations was this building. So if you have a close eye, you can see that this building and this building are the same exact building except for inversed. So this building has the window and waiting room on the left, whereas this one has it on the right. So same exact building, same builder built it, Knox Corporation. We bought ours for $125,000. We bought a second property as well that kind of brought that price down, but at the end of the day, we bought it for $125,000. And this building they're selling for $599,000. Okay, so what's the big deal, right? Why is this price so high? If we look on the map of where Bettendorf is, here's our Google listing for Milan, Illinois. So if you look at the Quad Cities area, you have Rock Island, you have Moline, you have Davenport, Iowa, and then you have Bettendorf. So Bettendorf is right here. So super close to Milan, right here. We have another Costa Oil right here. It's actually closer to Moline, but it's technically East Moline. We'll be opening a store in Davenport as well, and then we'll have the whole Quad Cities covered. So I had reached out to the listing agent for this Bettendorf location because it would really help our footprint. And I said, we bought this building for $125,000. How can we justify buying a vacant property for $600,000? Well, if you take a look at the purchase history of this building, Mr. DeGreve built the building in 1998 for a very modest $145,000. Very, very good price in 1998 to build a quick lube that's as nice as that. He sold to Valvoline, and then Valvoline sold to whoever El Nino LLC is, and then Nino's LLC sold it to a triple net investor for $700,000, right? So what happens is when you package these properties up in these high operating expenses, eventually those leases come to an end. The Take 5 that we pulled up had I think a 20-year lease, but leases, there's covenants in leases, there's expectations that need to be met. Leases can be broken, and from time to time the tenant leaves holding a bag holder. And so there's two possibilities, and the reasons why I refer to this as a ticking time bomb is the two possibilities here is either the operator succumbs to the massive lease, or when their lease is over, they don't renew. And then you have a triple net investor who has no idea how to operate this special use property. This is not a property that can be, it can't be repurposed into something else. The ceilings are typically too low to put in lifts for these legacy quick lube buildings. A lot of the newer ones, they have put into place measures to be able to have lifts and things of that nature. But this building right here is going to sit empty. It's going to sit empty for a long time. We submitted an offer for a much lower price, and the realtor was like, look, we paid this amount for it. We're not going to be able to sell it for that amount. And it puts everyone in a weird position because I just bought this building for $125,000, less than 10 miles away from this building. And they're the same exact building, same market, same traffic count, same everything. So what happens here? Well, someone gets left holding the bag, and it's either the operator. In this case, this Jiffy Lube franchisee had multiple Jiffy Lubes. I was able to go to the Davenport Jiffy Lube and talk to the employees and do some kind of covert operation on their info, found out car count, found out and the store wasn't doing poorly. It wasn't doing poorly at all. It's just the rent was really high. It was doing 25 to 30 cars a day, which nowadays is a decent car count for, especially for this market in the Quad Cities. But the franchisee said it wasn't worth it. And so I can only imagine what his lease was to cause if you're talking about a 10 cap, then they're paying $7,000 a month in rent, right? And so if you're doing 25, 30 cars a day, you're probably pounding out, I don't know what Jiffy Lube's ticket averages are because they have the multi-care now, and obviously they have higher ticket average items. But, at 25 cars a day, you're talking about $40,000, $50,000 a month in revenue potentially based on industry averages. So this space will sit for a long time. I am in negotiations to try to figure out a lease, but even the lease amount, they want to make sure that they're not underwater on, I'm assuming, their mortgage, because a lot of these triple net investors, they take out a mortgage and then they pocket the difference between the rent amount and their mortgage amount. That's what makes these leases worth buying, these triple net leases. So we're either going to see a mass exodus of operators who are unable to pay a $112,000 a year net operating lease. I'm picking I should stop picking on Take 5 because I really respect Take 5 as well, but I just clicked on them again. $130,000 a year NOI, right? So I probably shouldn't use a calculator for this, but so forgive me, guys. But divided by 12, that monthly rent before taxes is $11,000 a month, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of oil changes. All right, $34 Castrol oil change advertised in the window. That's a lot of oil changes to get to your rent before labor, before electricity, before anything else. So just thought I'd share my opinion on that. I think it's a huge problem for the quick lube industry. I think all of the brands are racing to find liquidity from their real estate. It seems like they're cashing out, and the true bag holders are going to end up being the operators, the franchisees. Part of the reason I think our model is superior is because we're not reselling our buildings immediately, and also just the pure cost of our buildings is so little that the rent number for our franchisees should be always under those numbers. So that's kind of my opinion on why the triple net state of things for the quick lube industry is going to be a problem. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out on me on Twitter. That's where this question came up in the first place. Or you can email me, Costa@costaoils.com. Thanks, guys.